Hello, this has been Bruce from Asking Alexandria, and you're checking out The Jeremy White Show.
An all-new episode of The Jeremy White Show.
Available wherever you stream.
Catch up on past interviews and episodes on demand now.
Subscribe so you don't miss any of it.
Our next guest is a member of one of my favorite rock groups around the world. Let's be honest here. The brand new record. It's the 8th album, by the way. Where do we go from here? Available now wherever you get your music. You got the CDs, you got the vinyl. Make sure you digital download, stream it, pirate it, do whatever you got to do to get it in your life because it's so good. Welcome to the show for the first time. The one, the only, from Asking Alexandria, Ben Bruce. How's it going, man?
Mate, I'm great. Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoy the new album.
Oh, dude, it's fantastic. Did you think going into the studio and recording this record, like, fans would be as receptive and as excited as they've been?
I mean, it's always the hope, you know. I think
you're like, fuck it, nobody's excited about this.
Yeah, please, like this one. But no, I think the thing about Asking is we always try. Like every record's been different than its predecessor. So, you know, it's always we never really know, and you know, thankfully, it's like there's always someone that listens to it and enjoys it. But this time, I think we made a valiant effort, a really big effort to make sure we try to encompass everything that Asking has been and sounded like throughout the entirety of our career. So, you know, with this one, we very much wanted it to be, if you push play and listen to it from start to finish, there's something on there for every single Asking Alexandria fan, you know, whether you like the really early stuff, the newer stuff, the middle stuff, or all of it. You know, I think there's snippets of all of that kind of melded into one record here. And that was the goal anyway.
Right. I mean, talk a little bit about that. I mean, one of the things I love about your band is that, I mean, it's kind of everywhere across the rock genre. You've done, you got the ballads and you got the scream and you got the blast beats and you got the melodic solos. I mean, how important is it for you guys to explore all of it and not just be stuck in a box?
It's really important. I was introduced to music at such a young age.
What was the band? Who introduced you to music?
I think honestly, I was really fortunate. So my grandma was really into music, and I used to stay with my grandparents a lot when I was a kid.
Me too.
My parents had to work a lot. Yeah, so even from the age of 2, my grandma would sit me on her lap, and she'd be playing, Beethoven on the piano a lot. So I was introduced to music at such a young age, and it was classical music through my grandma. And then my dad is like a blues player. He plays the blues harp. So he introduced me to like Eric Clapton, B.B. King, all kinds of sort of Gary Moore. Big blues players. So from a young age, I was listening to different ends of the spectrum of music anyway. And then as I got older, my parents got divorced, and my stepdad introduced me. He listened to more metal bands of the era, of his era. So he introduced me to like the Scorpions and Deep Purple and Pink Floyd rock bands and stuff like that. So, I had stuff coming in from every direction growing up. And so for me to kind of pigeonhole myself and say, I'm just going to do this one kind of music, was never really an option, and so we always try and inject as many different aspects as we can into it. And I think even if you go back and listen to our earlier stuff, there's always, I think that influence from my grandma has always been in Asking as well. There's always massive orchestration and, symphony sections and strings and pianos. So I think it's nice to be able to explore different regions and try and bring them all together and make them sound cohesive somehow.
Yeah. I can't stand like the snobby guys of metal and rock. They're like, you got to be like the Ramones or Misfits. Get 3 chords and, that's it. Well, no, like I'm a fan of, like one of my favorite, like my favorite producer of all time is Mutt Lange. And like I'll listen to everything from Def Leppard to Shania and like all those orchestrated guitar parts that he did with Def Leppard. And I'm friends with Phil Collin, and we talk about that all the time, how Mutt would just sit them down and say, no, it can't just be chords. We need to orchestrate. Every single thing needs to have a purpose in the mix. And
absolutely. I mean, even like, and I know people like to make jokes about them and stuff, but go and listen to the Nickelback stuff Mutt Lange did, and it's just like, this is so good. Even the overall sound. That was another thing about Mutt's albums as well, is for me, it's like sometimes the album can sound the same throughout, whereas he created songs and they sounded like they needed to sound. So the records were like a roller coaster. And I always enjoyed that about Mutt Lange's stuff and the way he approached writing music and producing music. He's one of my favorites as well.
Did you ever approach your songwriting like the Mutt style? Like it's got to be verse, chorus, solo, verse, chorus, or like what was the songwriting like for you guys?
It's definitely progressed over the years. I think if you listen back to our earlier stuff, it's evident that we weren't very accomplished songwriters and the songs were kind of all over the place. But I think, with hindsight, that's what kind of gives them their charm and makes them, the songs that they are. So, sometimes it's one of those things for me. I always look at like a great example for me growing up. I was never like classically trained or anything like that. I didn't really have much musical knowledge other than what I could hear and being able to put what I hear in my head and down and get it out there. Whereas another friend of mine I went to school with, his name was Zane, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal musician. And his parents put him into, he did the Suzuki method from like the age of 3 or something like that. So he could pick up any instrument he could and play it. Literally, even if he'd never played it before, chuck a violin at him, he'd go, nee, nee, nee. Oh, okay. And then he'd be playing it. And I was always very envious when I was young because it was a lot of effort for me to figure out, okay, this is what's happening. And once I did, I could jam, but I'd have to figure it out, whereas he could just do it. And he sat me down one day and he goes, but sometimes that lack of knowledge is your secret weapon. It's the best thing you can do. He goes, because whilst you might look at me and think he can do it all, he knows everything. It's like, what I can't do is think outside the box. Like everything I do is taught. So there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And I think, I've always carried that with me because it's so true when it comes to songwriting. I don't really think there should be or could possibly be a right way or a wrong way to write a song, because it's art. And so had I had that knowledge previously, and this is how I've been told you have to write a song, I feel like it kind of limits it. And you do hear it in a lot of pop music. You know where it's going.
Yeah, they got to stick to the formula.
Happen. Exactly. And I think to some extent it does work. Of course it does. You can write fantastic songs that way, but it's nice to be able to think outside the box and do things that don't follow the formula and the structure, which I think we explored that quite a lot on our previous record. See What's on the Inside. If you listen to songs like Find Myself or even the title track, there's no clear path that we go through on those songs. So it's nice to be able to do both, I think.
Yeah. Talking about this new record, where do we go from here? It's available now wherever you get your music. Asking Alexandria. What are some of your favorite tracks off this new album?
It's so hard to pick a favorite track. I mean, because for me it changes all the time. Before the record came out, for months it was Nothing Left. I loved Nothing Left because it was very theatrical sounding to me, and there's a guitar solo in it, which, being the guitarist, I love that.
You need the solo.
You need the guitar solo, and that was always a thing for me too. When we were a younger band, I grew up really playing a lot of blues music and lead guitar. And when Asking sort of broke and we did our first albums, there weren't really any guitar solos because they weren't, I don't really know, like in vogue at the time. Do you know what I mean? Like people didn't really want it. Even Metallica for a moment there and St. Angus stopped doing guitar solos. So, people always went, oh, he can't play guitar solos. And it really upset me because I was like, I can. So now when Asking started doing guitar solos, I was like, I like this. So selfishly, I really like Nothing Left because there's a guitar solo in it. But, I think the song I really circle back to time and time again just to listen to is Let Go. I don't know what it is about that song.
I was just going to say, that's my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's the production, it's the lyrics, the vocal delivery, all of it. I really, really love that song. Really proud of that song.
It sounds huge. Like the arrangement's great. It also, but like this, don't take this wrongly, but it sounds commercial and it's like very pleasurable to the ears and it's very melodic and it's just got a good vibe to it, even though it's telling a good story as well. But
no.
You know what I mean? It's a good song.
Yeah, exactly. Which is nice just to have like you say, a good, well-rounded song. I think there's so many things. Like if you look back at rock music in the past, there's been so many examples of predominantly rock bands or even metal bands to some extent writing songs that everyone loves them. I mean, think of like the Eagles and Hotel California. Everyone in the world loves that fucking song. Like they just do, whether they're actually a rock fan or not. they like the song, you know. And Metallica kind of did the same thing with Enter Sandman. I know it's like, well, that was their big commercial thing, and some people get upset by it, but it's like, I've never met a person. It doesn't matter if they're a rapper or into hip hop or pop or jazz or metal or rock. Everyone knows and loves Enter Sandman because it's just a good song.
Yeah.
So you know, I kind of I feel that way about Let Go. Not saying it's Enter Sandman by any means, but you know, it's
Yeah.
just a nice, well-rounded song that I think people of multiple walks of life can enjoy.
I want to go back to the guitar playing aspect for a second because you said something interesting where, you know, you weren't necessarily able to shine on those earlier records and do, you know, some wank off solos. I mean, when people would say that, like, Ben Bruce, he's a shit guitar player, there's no way he could play Eruption. Like, are you sitting in the back of your mind like, oh, really? Like, watch this. Like,
Yeah, I can, you know, but the thing that I think really irks me the most is, you know, people would be like, oh, he just plays 0 0 0 0 0, which, you know, at the time that was the kind of music we played. A lot of breakdowns. We did. That was what we enjoyed. It's what we loved to do. But I always listen back to some of the rhythms, and I'm like, yeah, but even in their own right, they're very complicated. They're almost mathematical equations. So even then, it's like, okay, it might only be this, but what's to take away or detract from a rhythm? And you know, even like small things that maybe a lot of musicians, people that aren't musicians, don't necessarily know, but like different time signatures and stuff across those earlier records and tempo changes. You know, those things are all things that make a composition interesting. And whilst they might not be immediately instantly like, whoa, what the hell, like a guitar solo comes out and you're like, whoa, guitar solo, you know, they're just as important aspects like that, things like tempo changes, key changes, and time signature changes that aren't necessarily as in your face. But you know, as a songwriter, you feel accomplished when you can get things like that into your song, into your composition.
right. Yeah, I always think about that. You know, everybody talks about Eddie Van Halen and his crazy leads, but I mean, the man was just a brilliant rhythm player. I mean, like playing in the pocket. It and you even talk
Yeah,
about.
and I feel the same way about James Hetfield. You know, everyone
I was
always
just gonna
talks
say.
about, you know, James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett's the lead guitarist. Everyone goes, man, but I'm like, dude, James Hetfield, unreal. Even the fact that he's playing some of those rhythms at the speed he's playing them and those riffs and singing at the same time, it's far more impressive to me than a guitar solo. You know what I mean? I'm like, he's nuts. He's insanely talented.
Yeah. Speaking of guitars, really quickly, you're one of the only guys I know in metal that doesn't play any guitar without a locking nut. You're always, like, it's almost like you're anti-Floyd at this point. What is it about you and like, you know, not having any like, is it like, what is it? Because you always played kind of like Strat style, you know, bridges, no Floyds, no
Yeah.
locking nuts. Like, is that the blues player in you that just kind of just
I
wants to
was
stay
going to say
traditional?
it's the blues player in me, man. And I like, you know, I've always had a philosophy as less is more. And, you know, the tones I can get out of the guitars I play means so much to me. And it was fun for me being younger, trying to figure out ways to do cool stuff and to play heavy music on guitars that weren't necessarily designed to do it, you know. And the thing for me as well is I like to come home away from Asking, away from tour, away from everything like that. And I'd still like to sit down and play guitar. So for me, I want to love playing my instruments, whether that's in Asking or at home, you know, in the privacy of my own home. I want to love them the same. And that was a big thing for me. And you know, people were always kind of confused by that. I can't believe you're playing this live. I'm like, you just got to spend time getting the tone. And I think if you're comfortable on the guitar and you know the guitar and you can, you know, take it to its limits, you know, I think if I, you know, listen to Alone Again, you know, it's the first single off our last record, that guitar tone is so heavy and it's so big. And that's a Strat. It's a Fender Strat, you know. So I kind of like the challenge of taking a guitar that most people wouldn't necessarily pick up to play something heavy and going, it can be.
Yeah. And especially, I mean, if you're on stage and you got a Fender Strat with a single coil and playing with all that gain, it's like, you know, normally screaming right back at you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and that's a challenge too, you know. But I mean, you just taking the time to like I say, learn the instrument, learn what you can and can't do, and then also for live purposes, my guitar tech's a lifesaver. He rides the line with me. He's there on the side of the stage, figuring it all out as we go, and even like for me, I for a long time I was playing live cabs and heads, which most people don't do anymore. They'll do it all digitally, and I'm still got a head and a full stack cranking side stage, and my band would be like, man, this is so annoying. You're so much louder than everyone else, and I'm like, this is what it should be, man. This is it. But I love it.
Yeah, it's funny. I was backstage at Megadeth a couple of weeks ago and I was looking at Dave Mustaine's rig, and he's literally just got a neural DSP quad cortex with a line going to front and then a line going to a power amp into one cabinet just for the stage, just so we could get some feedback. But that's it. Everybody's going the fractal and the neural DSP kind of thing. Do you
Yeah.
are you going to get to that point, or are you sticking with the heads?
They still, I mean, we still do run all that stuff as well. Mainly for things for me, it's mainly for things like, okay, we have songs in so many different tunings. Instead of bringing 500 guitars, I bring like 12 to 14 guitars. And then if I'm playing a song that's like normally tuned in D and then the next song's in C, I can use the Kemper or whatever to be like boop, and it changes the tuning for me on the same guitar. So for things like that, I think it's really really interesting. And two, for stuff like overseas, when you go and travel like thousands of miles to another country, it gets super expensive traveling with cabs and heads and stuff. And I don't like to rely on the promoters in another country and say this is my setup, and you get there and it's wrong. So in instances like that, fractals and stuff are they are really useful bits of gear. But for me, there's nothing better than just a live massive cab and just a wall of noise. I don't even wear a two in-ears, which is, everyone's like, that's insane, you're going to go deaf. I just wear one and let this ear just take the full battering of whatever's happening on the stage. But I feel like you get that energy.
Yeah, a lot of artists talk about that isolation that in-ears kind of give you. There's a bit of a disconnect, and
there's a massive disconnect. I can't do it. I don't. It's the same thing with headphones. Honestly, like I don't want to listen to music on headphones because I'm like, it's too here. I love listening to music in the car because it can be loud and there's space and there's air, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm immersed in the music.
yeah,
It's the same thing with in-ears live. If you have two in-ears in, there is a massive disconnect, and you can mic the crowd, and there's tricks so that you can hear the crowd come, but it's not the same as when they're just battering your eardrums.
when you have the in-ears and you got the just like the crowd mic sort of in the between songs, what's some of the funniest shit you've heard, like audience people just yell at you?
My favorite still to this day is I feel like it must be a staple for every performing artist, is people still, like, they'll come to an Asking show and they'll be shouting for Freebird. And I'm like, man, that's I agree, dude. Now you've said it. Yeah, I'm kind of turning around to my guys. I'm like, Freebird, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a great song. I can't blame you there. I want to listen to Freebird right now too. Unfortunately, we don't have time, so we're going to play this one that's not as good.
Yeah, yeah. One day Asking is just going to kick into Freebird. People are going to go, what the fuck?
Yeah, no one asked for that. Yeah, they did.
Actually, yeah, sweaty dude in the front row.
Yeah. G6. He asked for it.
Oh, jeez. That's funny. Actually, back in the day, David Lee Roth, they sort of had that, his security team had a grid on the floor. He'd go over to one guy, be like, see this hot girl? Okay, corner, section 3, back row, redhead. Like they had like the whole grid on the floor, like planned out if he needed to get a pass to a chick or something.
That's insane. That is insane. Well, for us, it will be Bird. We're going to play Freebird. I'd have to learn the 500-minute guitar solo first.
Yeah.
That would take the entire set length.
Whenever I think of Freebird, I always think of Devil's Rejects, the final scene at the end.
Me too. What a scene. That is an absolutely incredible scene, isn't it? They're just going for it. There's another movie as well. I can't remember for the life of me what movie it is. They're in a church and it's the same kind of thing. That song's playing, and there's just a massive, like, the guy takes out every bad guy in the church. I can't remember what it is. I feel like it's
Oh,
not, is it the Kingsman or something?
yeah, it's the Kingsman. I think it's the first
Is it the
Kingsman.
Kingsman? It's so good. I'm like, this is yeah. I'm like, that scene is just so good. It's absolute mayhem, and it's, I think that's Freebird as well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's definitely Freebird. I was gonna say I had
Pretty sure.
beginning of Happy Gilmore. I thought it was Freebird. No,
So
it's
good.
Tuesday's Gone. So different one.
Oh well, it's amazing. I love it.
Speaking of gear, really quickly, what did you use to record this record? Did you go the digital route, or did you mic up some cabinets and throw some Soldano and some Marshall in there? Like, did you have some fun in the studio with this?
This one we went digital actually, because the last one, See What's on the Inside, was fully that. I went to town on chasing tone on See What's on the Inside. So, I used my Soldano that's down here. I
Mm.
had a bunch of lady stuff. I got some Rev stuff, Orange. We used Marshalls. We used it all. Uh, um, and same with the guitars. Like, I was so obsessed with tone on the last record. I found uh what was his name? Oh man, it's gonna kill me now. James, I think it's James Page was his name. I've probably got that wrong now, but it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to the story. But he
Who
was the
cares?
first person. Yeah, exactly. He was the first person to sort of make the old beat up looking 60s strats for Fender and the Master Shop back in, I think it was like 1990 or something like that.
Hmm.
And so he kind of made these, and I was so obsessed with tone that I went and I found one of the original ones, which is that one that's hanging on my wall, and I
Oh,
spent an
dude, go
absolute
grab it. Let's see
fortune
that. I
on
want to
it.
see that.
It's absolutely beautiful. This is uh this is like a $13,000 uh guitar, one of the originals that he ever made. It's an absolutely beautiful guitar.
That is gorgeous.
And I was like, they're the nicest sounding guitars in the whole world. I have to have one, and they're really hard to find. And so I searched high and low, and I found one in, like, where was this? It was in like Turks and Caicos or somewhere, nowhere near us. And I found the guy. I was like, "Can you ship this to me? I need it." And so I bought it from him, and it turned up right at the end of recording. So I was like, "Yes, we need to go back in and re-record all the clean guitars on this guitar," which was a nightmare, but it was
Yes.
worth it. And then, I think See What's on the Inside was one of those records where it was a lot of it was for us doing stuff like that. It was so enjoyable. But these days, a lot of people, that stuff kind of falls to the wayside. It gets compressed and it gets mastered, and all that stuff comes out. And then when you play it through iTunes, they have their own compression, and it kind of gets lost. And it was such a shame, and it was so upsetting. So for me, on this album, it was more, okay, we can get the sounds we need digitally to make the songs have the energy that they need and the energy that we want them to have. And for things like the eternal pursuit of tone and stuff like that, it can be a personal thing. It's something that I enjoy at home with
Mhm.
friends, so that I can just enjoy it. Whereas this time around, like I said, for us, it was more important that the energy was there. So instead of spending hours and hours on finding the most insane tone that was perfect and silky smooth, like if you listen to Bad Blood, for instance, the guitar tone's quite ugly. It's not a great guitar tone. You wouldn't sit there and go, this has taken me forever.
It's
But it was exactly
filthy.
the
That
tone that
tone
was
is
needed to
filthy,
make
man.
that. Exactly. Exactly. So it was like, this is disgusting sounding, which is what I want for this. Dylan, 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 Dylan. I was like, so it was a different journey with tones and stuff on this record, but still the trusty Strats.
I love that. And it just, you know what? Look, at the end of the day, you're supposed to be having fun doing this. It's your job. You're not working a drive-through or something. You're supposed to take as much time as you need and explore all the avenues. You know, get off at the wrong exits, but get back on the highway. Like that's part of the journey and the fun.
Exactly, you know, and I think that this album this time round, it was all about just fun and enjoying it. And we did take our time and we sat with songs. And if I wasn't just headbanging and having the time of my life whilst recording, like, I want to do that song. You know, I want to be having fun while I'm doing it. And Bad Blood actually set the tone for that. That was the first song that we wrote for the session that got me feeling that way. And I was like, man, this is so. It reminded me of old System of a Down. You know, and I was like, I love that. I love this feeling, and that's why it's the first song on the record, because it was the one that kind of set the tone. And I was like, okay, this is fun.
And that riff's gonna sound great in an arena too. I mean, come on.
But yeah, it's. I think a lot of these songs will. So, you know, again, it takes me back to Let Go. It's so big and it's so open. You know, I think. Yeah, man, it was a really fun experience making this record. We did it in such a different way. Being able to do it at home in our own studios was a really nice change of pace, because there was no time limit. It was like, you're not in the studio from this day to this day, you best get it done. We're doing it at home at our own pace, so we could really take the time to make sure that we were happy with everything. And it just made it a really enjoyable experience, which is, you know, we've not experienced writing a record like that before.
Yeah. Was what's it like being, I mean, like, are you still sober? Like, you still in the sober wagon these days, or?
I'm not sober. I drink. I like wine. Like, I drink wine. I don't drink liquor or spirits or anything like that. I tend to just stick with wine, and I'll have some beer every now and again. You know.
Yeah.
But really, yeah, it's. I like to stick with a nice wine at dinner or something, or if I go out for a meal.
Yeah. No, because I went to rehab last year, and like I've been like sober for a little bit. I've had like a couple of drinks here and there. Yeah, it's not that easy. You know, we want to go and have a nice glass of wine with dinner, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna do that, but I'm afraid if I do that, well, then it turns into like doing blow for 2 days. So it's so
Yeah, you see, and that's the point to get to. You know, is to be able to just moderation. You know, which, you know, it was a tough thing for a lot of people. But, you know, once you can find that happy medium and go, okay, I've had some wine with dinner now, it's time for bed. You know, it's a whole different ball game. It's nice, it's good. But congratulations, by the way, on, you know, working on that journey.
Well, I was gonna say back at you. I mean, like, especially in the world, like in the music business stuff, it's fucking hard to, you know, to do that. And I was just gonna say, like, you know, has that affected your songwriting in any way? Like, you know, were you afraid, like, oh fuck, like I'm not gonna be in that mindset of like being, you know, crazy, and like that's when some of the cool shit comes out.
I actually was really afraid of that. But you know, my mom spoke to me a lot about it, and she was like, look, you were never this way growing up. You know, growing up, I didn't drink a lot. I didn't party or any of that stuff. You know, it was only when you sort of fall into this horrible spiral in the music industry, and people almost expect it of you, and they push it on you, and that's how you're supposed to be. And you know, you finally kind of get lost in that world for a while. But as soon as, you know, you come out of it, yeah, I was nervous. Like, wow, what if my success, you know, and my songwriting abilities are from that? And my mom was like, well, that's just not true, because you've been writing since you were a kid, and you've always loved songwriting. You've always been so proud to show me the songs and stuff. And she was like, you know, you've still got that. As soon as you realize, oh, you know, that wasn't part of it. It wasn't part of it at all. You know, it was just um, so, you know, now that happened to me for a few years ago. You know, I did like a House on Fire. It was completely sober and all that stuff, and it was daunting. But since then, you know, it's actually more enjoyable. It's much more enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially going in and you can actually enjoy and like relish in your accomplishments, and like, you know, shit, I wrote that and I didn't need outside substance to influence it, or, you know, it's a good feeling.
It is a really good feeling. Exactly. Yeah, you feel more accomplished.
Yeah, you feel validated in a way.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's like, and two, you know, it, for me, it opened a whole, see what's on the inside was great for me, because it really allowed me to step back and re-fall in love with guitar and stuff again. It gets to the point where you start feeling like you're just a cog in a machine, and people are like, okay, you have to do another record, you have to do another tour, you have to do this, you have to do this, and you're just kind of going, and you're not even really there anymore. You're just kind of a shell of a person. And See What's on the Inside for me was like my producer really helped me step outside of that and rediscover guitar and tones, and that's why I think I went overboard on that record. Like, we used like 30 heads, and we had like 60 plus guitars that we brought to the show, like all this stuff. And I think that was just me re-falling in love with the instrument I fell in love with as a kid. So it's important.
Yep, I completely agree. Super, super important. You know what? When you rediscover that love for something that you neglected for so long because other things were influencing you, I mean, like, it's nice. It's almost like, it's like you said, re-falling in love again, and it changes your life when you look at that way, I guess. I mean, it kind of sounds kooky and like, but I don't think it is.
But it is, yeah. You're kind of finding yourself again.
Mm-hmm. Talking about that, I know we're running out of time, but are you going to be hitting the road, the Psycho Thunder tour? What can fans expect from this big live show? You're going to be running dates all the way, kicking off August 30th in San Antonio, wrapping up in LA in October. What can fans expect? You got big production, changing up the set list.
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of bittersweet because I've explained this a few times now, but my wife basically, me and my wife have 4 children. She was born with glaucoma, and she had some operations and surgeries when she was a baby that brought her vision back to some extent. So she's been fine most of her life, but it's been deteriorating, and so she's actually gone completely blind in I think it's her left eye now, completely blind in that eye, and her other eye is deteriorating at quite a rate now as well. So she's not able to drive, which means she can't drive the kids to school. She can't do, doctor's trips with them or for her when she needs to go and get her eyes sorted out. There's, all kinds of things. So for me in my life, to pack up my bags and go, okay, I'll see you guys in 8 weeks' time, it's just not something I can do anymore. I have to put my family first. I have to be there and take care of my children and my family and all that. So unfortunately for me, I'm not going to be able to. I won't be on the tour. I don't think that's something that's I can do at this moment in time. Yeah, but I know obviously I've been talking to the guys every day about the tour. They're super excited. The set list that they've put together is amazing. They're playing songs that haven't been played in years. Songs like Breathless are being thrown on the set list and To the Stage and stuff like that. So I think the set itself is such a cool mix of the band's career. So I think the show's going to be amazing. And obviously, like I said, it's bittersweet that I can't be there with the guys, but you just have to put your children first and your wife first, especially when it comes to their health and well-being. So I'll be cheering them on from the sidelines for sure. And I think it's going to be an amazing show. They've been working really hard at it.
Yeah. And look, I have all the respect in the world for that. Family first, man. Good on you. The road will always be there, but you know what? At the end of the day, family is what you come home to.
Exactly. And I just can't leave my wife with no way to drive the kids to school, and she's the only one there cooking meals for 4 kids and trying to rely on other people to help take the kids to and from school, to doctor's visits, to even birthday parties and stuff. It's just not the right thing to do, and I have to put my family first. And one day I think I hope my kids will appreciate it. I don't want to be, I'm sure a lot of people go, oh, it would be cool if your kids are like, yeah, well, my dad, was a rock star or whatever. It's like, I don't really care about that. I'd much rather my kids grew up and they say, oh, my dad was always there. I just want to be there, whenever they need me, whenever they need anything. And so for me, that has to be my priority right now.
No, absolutely. I was just going to say, I'd much rather my kids say, yeah, my dad was a rock star, but my dad was there. And
my dad was there. Exactly. So important.
It goes a long way, Well, you know what? Forget the pyro and everything for the show. They should just get the Ben Bruce hologram.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. Is it ABBA that's doing that at the moment?
It was ABBA.
I need to. My parents have been to see that ABBA show twice. They said it's amazing. I need to go see it. I have to go see it.
Yeah, I'd love to see. Is that was set up in London, I think, right? That was like a residency or something.
It's still going. I need to go.
Yeah.
London's literally like 30 minutes away from me. I don't know why I haven't been yet. I need to get going. I need to go see it.
Well, next time I'm in London, I'll hit you up. We'll go together. It'll be a date.
We'll go see ABBA together. We'll get some ABBA t-shirts, some big foam fingers. It'll be great.
Dude, foam fingers. Holy shit.
ABBA foam fingers. I love that. You know what? I'm gonna call the guys and tell them they need to sell big foam metal horns at the merch table. Just massive foam hands. It'd be so good.
Dude, I saw AC/DC back in 2008 and they were selling the light up devil horns, like they put on.
Yeah.
Every single person in the stadium had those. You know how much bank they made that night just on those little things alone? Probably cost like 2 cents from China.
So cool too. What a cool thing.
Yeah. Well, look, it's been great talking to you, man. Brand new record is available now wherever you get your music. Where do we go from here? It's on the vinyl and CDs. You guys are still about the physical, right?
Yeah, we love it, and I think whenever we put a record together, we do think of the order of the songs because it's important to us that even the vinyl, you want side B to be just as good as side A. So we still very much think that way. Which I don't know if everyone does anymore, maybe not, but for us, yeah, we love that.
Well, I think it's coming back. So, especially a lot of artists, like everybody thought the music business was going to shift into iTunes and Spotify, but now fans are rebelling against it. Like, no, I want to go to the store. I want to do the pre-order that comes with the T-shirt and all this stuff. So
that's nice, and it sounds better. Put a vinyl on; it sounds better.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, look, great talking to you. Get back to the kids. Get back to the wife.
Appreciate that, man. Jeremy, it was great to talk to you, mate. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
An all-new episode of The Jeremy White Show.
Available wherever you stream.
Catch up on past interviews and episodes on demand now.
Subscribe so you don't miss any of it.